Welcome to today's collective reading. This is going to be a channeled reading. I had quite the download come through and I am so filled with excitement. There's a lot of energy that's behind this that wants this to come to light. So I'll open with a bit of a resonance to the note of G. To really elevate the consciousness up there to it makes me feel so good when I hear that note. It reminds me of like blues and how they talk about the sacredness of the note and the key and the chord of G. I have a specific image in mind of the TV show Bones, the artist's dad. And how he talks to his new son-in-law about the chord or the note or the key of G, and he's just like, I don't know. And her dad just looks at him like, I don't know about you. Just don't hurt my little girl. Which is kind of an interesting thing to flow right into the beginning of this download, because it was around the concept of what the Jezebel energy means to you, or how its presence is felt in your life if you're experiencing this. Or if you've experienced it in the past and you can look back and be like, yeah, that's a thing. I've experienced this. So it was a lot around how to free yourself from that. Where are you in it, in relationship to it? And the metaphor that really came through was, think of it like a casino, okay? The Jezebel has a game, and this could be something of, any kind of energy, not necessarily a person. It could be a social construct, such as a casino. But regardless, if you play the game, you're investing your energy into it. And just like a casino, it's their game. It's set up for the house to always win. You're set up to fail the moment you begin to play. And if you should become really proficient in any way, such as counting cards, they have their own ways of handling people that they can spot, that know how to game their system. And not always is it above board. Regardless, if you give your energy to it, and you play the game and you step away from your truth, your authenticity, and you believe somehow that you're in a state of lack, which is really what the casino is in this metaphor. It's believing that you must be other than what you are and who you are to be enough for others. If you do this, then you can invest in that, and maybe then you'll be enough. That system, that thought process, is something that we have all encountered. It's part of coming of age in many, many ways. Not all of us really get to overcome it or outgrow it. And even fewer of us are consciously aware of why or how it just happened. So, if you find yourself in a position where you're experiencing this to a level or a degree that most of those around you are not, and you don't understand why, where you have a more real experience, a more tangible, every day, every moment presence of a projection of lack onto you. So you're having more thoughts, more feelings, more emotions, dreams that don't feel like they're yours, but they're always there. And by that, by saying that they're not yours, they don't feel familiar to you, this is probably the biggest hurdle for anyone that is coming up against energies that seek to keep you believing that you're not enough in any way, or that you don't have enough, or you won't be able to have enough. And this could be as simple as just always having been poor or struggling financially, so that you don't know any other way of moving and believing. So then you find yourself manifesting more of it because you continue those same thought processes and habits that perpetuate that cycle. It could be as grounded in reality as this, just the money aspect, the balance in your accounts. But it crosses every aspect of who you are as a being experiencing life from moment to moment, in your relationships, how you feel about your future, your career, the prospects of a career, where you're going. If you have an image in your mind of where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years, is it a giant blank space because you just don't know? You don't have a concept of where you'd like to be because nothing feels stable enough in your life to build off of? These are all states of lack that may not belong to you. And you will know that they don't belong to you because a part of you is screaming that there's more. There's more to your life than this experience. And that is the light within you. That is your soul. That is your higher self. That is the divine light, that spark of divine that is aware of existing through your existence. You hold a piece of that light within you. And the feeling that there's got to be more to life than this is that invitation to start to figure out how to go about discovering that more. Because you're right, there is so much more to life than playing a game at a casino that is meant for you to lose. And in that metaphor, it's believing that you will always be in lack. And this sounds so like it's a personal conscious choice. Depending on where you are, if you're at the beginning, right here where you're like, yeah, there's more. There's got to be more. If you're right there, right now, this is where figuring out who you are to the micro only adds to your ability to break free from this system that has you believing because it pervades your subconscious. When most of the thoughts that we have every day we're unaware of, thus subconscious, are from our subconscious, and we believe that we're in a state of lack and we will always be in a state of lack, our subconscious is filled with thoughts about that. It's completely permeated with it. And yes, it seems incredibly overwhelming and very daunting, but it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. It's like I'm going to give you another metaphor. So say you have two individuals, and you might know this story. It was actually presented to me initially in school in like math class. And how you have an individual who's like, you know what, I'm gonna work for this farmer, and I'm gonna tell him that my first day I only want him to pay me a penny. But the next day I want him to double it and to continue doubling it. And I mean, at first it sounds like a great deal. But given time, that individual is going to be making way more than the farmer can pay him or her. Way more. You give it some time. Give it maybe, a month, maybe a little bit more than that. And it'll be a pretty nice salary. And to know that the next day it'll be doubled and doubled and doubled. It may seem like it's an overwhelming task before you, but what's the first penny? What are you going to look at first? And it's small, and it's just a penny. It's just a penny, but it's the beginning of something that gains momentum. And before you know it, it's an unstoppable force. And you're just riding that. You are your own abundance. You unlock that. So how do you begin with you? First thing would be to do what you can, because I know some of us, like our minds, they're all different. They're all unique. And we know our strengths, and we know where we are challenged. Some people, they focus better when they have a lot of stimuli coming at them at once. Use that to your advantage. Because in that moment when you can focus better versus, complete silence, there's no outside, pulling and tugging on you, and it's just like a moment or two. Maybe it's a 2-minute drive between here and the grocery store or whatever. In that 2 minutes, to be fully present with yourself. What am I thinking? And even if you don't get it the first time, you're strengthening that muscle. And as you continue to do that, your brain is a tool. It will begin to rewire itself to do what you're asking it to do. You consciously choosing how your brain works begins there. What am I thinking? What is my thought in this moment? And maybe it's something that you're gonna find funny. Maybe it'll make you laugh. Maybe it's sarcastic. Maybe it's dark. Maybe it's emotional. Maybe it's angry. Maybe it's this strong punch of just being unhappy with the situation that always puts you in a position of being a victim and giving your power to the Jezebel concept that you have a state of lack. That first thought, you can go, you know what? No, I don't want to have this thought anymore. Because if I'm having this thought and I'm on day 1 and I'm doing the penny, how many more of my unconscious thoughts are going to the same place? And I'm not aware of it yet because I'm beginning. I'm on day 1. I'm working with just the penny. Tomorrow I'll have 2, and the next day I'll have 4, the next day 8. And that can be drug out however long a period of time as is comfortable for you, because your journey is your own. It's pointless to compare yourself to anybody else because they're not you. We are all unique, and that is by design. That is by design. You have something unique to contribute to this life, to others around you, even if you never meet them, ever. Your presence, your footprint left in this world, in how you impact others, is unique to you, and it is necessary and is needed for the whole. Begin there, that thought. If it's a positive one, yeah, just positively reinforce it. Be like, yes, let's have more of this thought. And you continue to do that. You continue to do that. If it's a down vote or a double down vote, your brain is a tool. Neurologically, it will respond directly to what you consciously give your energy to, your focus. If you say, no, I don't want to have this thought again, you might have that thought a few more times. And that's fine. That's normal. That pathway may be very, very reinforced to have that thought. So however, frequently this continues to come up as you're downvoting it, just reinforces how frequently, or it's a sign of how frequently your mind goes there. It's a very strong neural pathway. It may take time for your brain to be like, all right, we're not even going to make this something you're consciously aware of when you're making space to be mindful of what you're thinking about. That's another layer down. So just going through life passively, going with the flow, you were not necessarily aware of it, but because you're taking this time, you're looking at a layer down. You're choosing that, which means everything below, like it's a pyramid. Everything below that layer you're looking at is affected. So it trickles. And as you do this, you will find yourself being aware of your thoughts like this, especially the ones that you're like, nah, I don't want to be feeling this way. So you're going to catch those that you don't want to continue having without having to think so focused, like I must have the specific set of environmental criteria met in order to be mindful. You're going to have yourself in a state where you strengthen this muscle to the point that you're doing this while driving, while eating, while just waking up in the morning, while exercising. You're not going to have all of that environmental support around it to be mindful. It'll become so strong that you're going to be nipping and like, yeah, just kind of like nipping and tucking. Like what? Like you're plastic surgerying? You're surgically capable of going, I don't want that, and I don't want that, and I don't want that. And it's like you're editing and correcting and restructuring what your brain knows you want to be thinking most of the time. And the more that you do this, the more you know yourself, because you're going to encounter things that hurt, because you're going to be encountering these aspects of this Jezebel energy archetype in your life that have hurt you, that have got you emotionally imprinted in this moment in your history that you were not enough. And now you in this moment are going back to that state and you're going, that's not logical. No, I don't own this. Yeah, it hurt. And I acknowledge that it hurt. You acknowledge it hurt so that it feels, so it's not being denied. What you deny, it persists. It gets stronger. So if you don't deny that it's something that you felt, it can be, you can move on from it. You can then go, all right, well, now what do I do with this? Every time you do something like this, you are releasing the grip that this archetype has over your mind, your subconscious, your conscious self. If what we think we become, you are consciously choosing to change what you think to what you want to think, to what you choose to think, instead of what you are passively thinking because all these other things have happened to you. And yeah, it's scary to go down in there and take a look, but I'll tell you something. It's your mind. It's your history. It's your feelings. It's your emotions. You have authority. Your right, your divine spark, your being alive is nothing more than you can create your life. For example, right now, you could get up. If you're at home, if you're at work, you could choose to get up. You could go for a walk. You could go to the other side of the building. You could go make some breakfast. You could do some pasta for dinner. You can create by choice in every moment something that you choose to do, that you're not made to do. No one's telling you to do it. You do it because you want to. And that's it. That is a very basic way of grounding the concept that you create your reality by your choices. This is an internal choice to empower yourself, and it takes time. It takes time. Now, for those of you that are really feeling like this is more of a spiritual aspect, because we don't have words for this in our society. We don't. We have spiritual. We go to the religious. We go to the mystical, the etherical, to how we describe what we cannot see, but we know to be true and that we can feel. And this is something that is true of, we know that love exists. We know that it's real. We know how it feels. But if you were to remove, say, like you have an individual who can't see, so they can't see love. But does that mean that they don't know love because they can't see the action in front of them? Of course they can recognize love. Love is not about the five senses. Love is beyond that. It's why we all seek it. It's why we're all wanting to be happy. It's not a path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Like that was a quote that came through for one of the daily shorts. Like, love is something that we cannot perfectly, minutely describe. We can't break it down into a mathematical equation. We can say that it's, biologically, it's like a chemical addiction to a situation, an individual, a dynamic. But what inspires that? It's unique for every individual and every situation and every dynamic. So what causes that? it's kind of a rabbit hole. It really is. The point is that just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not real. There are things such as love that we know to be real. So if it feels like this is something that is being more intensely experienced by you, you can look at those around you and they don't seem to be having the same questions. They don't seem to be having the same struggles. And you've gotten to a point where you're like, well, what is happening? It has to be something that is different than what others are experiencing, that's more not of this 3D, if you will. Now, there may be terms and words, and there may be math in the future and science in the future that is able to give us more concrete answers, because just as scientists, back in like Newton's time, for example, if there wasn't something they could explain, they'd be like, well, it's just God. I mean, part of that was because, I mean, yes, the church and, you know, scientists getting pretty much murdered, but that would be where they would go. What they couldn't understand or comprehend, they would say would be in the realm of divinity. So this is that boundary. Just because our culture, our society, our science hasn't caught up to this yet. We're with quantum physics and like the theory that exists, because it's replicable. It's sound. That's when it becomes a theory. It's sound. It's not just, well, this is me throwing this out there and it sounds nice. If it's a scientific or mathematical theory, then it's something that is sound. You have multiple different directions, multiple individuals that are coming at it, and they haven't been able to make it, to break it. So it's consistent. So they may end up having some kind of language for this, some kind of understanding. And they have, to my understanding, somewhat, they have a theory that there's 11 planes to existence, 11 layers of reality, 11 dimensions that exist. And they have a theory of how they overlap. That is fascinating. So if you're experiencing this level of a Jezebel presence in your life to a point where you've been doing some of this work, and you may find yourself encountering this, and I hope you don't, but if you do, this point forward may provide you some guidance, some insight, some validation, some comfort, some peace. You're not the only one. If you look out there on the internet, there are a lot of people that are going through this that don't have answers. They don't have answers, and they're seeking those answers. So if you feel that there is somewhat of a presence of this Jezebel energy, that you've done this shadow work to the extent where you're like, that's not a thought that I have. That's not something that's not what I'm about. I don't think about people this way. I don't move this way. I don't own this feeling that this thought is causing within me. This is not me. Where is this coming from? Okay, so this is where it's an outside energy projecting upon you, where you've become aware. Possibly this has been happening your whole life. You just were unconscious of it. But now you are conscious. So now that you're conscious, you can seek freedom from it. So in this state, it's really hard at certain points to maintain your faith, because you know who you are. You know what is real and what is true for you. You are an authentic individual. You're not going to lie to yourself, because you lie to yourself about yourself, and then it makes you so vulnerable to being deceived and lied to as well. And then you're on board with the gambling at the casino, and before you know it, you've given all of your energy and your focus. With where we focus, we create. So you're creating what this casino wants you to create then. You're giving your half of the co-creating with divinity consciously. You're surrendering that up to this casino, this Jezebel energy that keeps you believing that you will never have enough. You're always going to be in lack, and that's just how it is. And there may be times where you feel like, hey, you know, maybe I found my way out. Maybe you took down one of these major claws that was sunk into you that had you believing this. But then you encounter another, and you encounter another, and you begin to wonder if this will ever end. Here's where you could seek comfort. You're aware of this process. You're consciously observing this. Every thought, every feeling, every moment. The divine spark within you is co-creating with you. The divine is aware of this. That is where you could seek comfort in that. Because it's almost like you're an undercover agent, like you're bait in a way. I know it sounds terrible. Think of it this way. In a lot of creation stories, in particular, I'm thinking of the one where it talks about how in the beginning there was, you know, the divine, and it was just this great void, and the divine was lonely. The divine wanted to experience itself. So the divine thought, all right, well, I'm going to separate myself into two pieces. I'm going to be experiencing contrast. I want to know what it would be like to be in the opposite state that I'm currently in. But in order to fully experience this, there has to be a sense of other, right? So it's like the polar opposites. In today's time, like gaming, it would be, you know, blue versus red or red versus blue. But throughout time, like if you go right back to the I Ching and you look at the contrast of the yin yang, the black and the white, and how they interact, all of existence is a constant experience of contrast. So this is where it became a spiritual tradition then. It began to have connotations of masculine, feminine. So archetypes of being receptive versus assertive, so that this could be passed down through the generations. Quantum physics is not new. It's not new. These concepts have been with humanity, and they've been with us for a very long time. This is very old technology that we're rediscovering. Yes, possibly from a new direction, but it is a rediscovering of this knowledge. All of existence is presented in this creation story of experiencing that eternal chase and run, and then it's like a tag you're it kind of a deal. It's a proverbial never-ending chess match of experiencing what it is to be yourself, because you're being challenged to know yourself. Now, if you experience that on a divine level, like that is beyond the human ability to really do so. We try because we know that we're a part of that, because our experience is this constant dance of experiencing contrast. We can choose to create balance. We can choose to be a part of this balance. And by choosing to be aware of yourself, to know your mind, to choose to reinforce the pathways that you want your mind to travel more frequently, is co-creating. Now, are you giving to dark or to light? Do you want to have more happiness, more joy, more control of yourself? Thus, being aware of you allows you to have more control over what you experience. It's just this. I think it's Ouroboros, where it's the snake eating its own tail. It's like it just feeds itself. The more that you know of yourself, the more control you have to make conscious decisions to know yourself and to create the self that you choose to be. And it just never ends. It keeps going. And it would make sense from a soul perspective that that would be what the soul is doing. This is, however, about this life, in this moment, in this time. So the divine within you is aware of everything that is going on. And if you find that you're just really surrounded by these structures of lack that you are breaking and you are overcoming, and yet you encounter another one and another one and another one, and you begin to actually find yourself, no matter how strong and stubborn you've been, at a moment where maybe you're encountering this channeled message, where you're like, I don't know, is this really what the divine is creating for me, even though it is not at all what I'm wanting to experience? you begin to question, is this, like, what is going on here? You feel a little hurt, possibly a little betrayed, a little confused, because you're just so tired and you're worn out and you're exhausted, and you need the divine to step in and pick up the slack to let you know you're not alone. And you may have had these moments leading up to now where you're like, I'm getting there. And that's really what they are. It's like saying the water's too cold. But you take your foot back out, you put it back in, you go a little deeper, and then it gets too cold and you come back out. There's a certain point where you're going to be hypothermic. That's where it's really too far, where it's really too cold. And that's where the divine will then be like, all right, we have to. Hopefully that the divine will intervene before then. But at that moment, if the divine intervenes in that moment, it will leave such a strong impression upon you that there won't be doubt. There won't be question anymore. And if you find yourself there, know that you're a very old soul, that you have a lot of wisdom to share with this world, even if you don't do something like this, where you're speaking the truth. You could be having a huge impact just being alive, just existing, just loving your children, your partner, working with pets, animals, the community. You don't have to have a platform, a soapbox to speak off of, right? To have a huge impact in this life. Because actions speak louder than words. They leave a huge impact. To love someone, yes, you can speak these truths. Yes, you can say these wonderful things that are true. But when you actually act it, that is going to have such a huge impact. When you don't just say you love someone, you show them you do. That has a huge impact. And it's beyond that individual. It affects everyone around both of you when you show them that you love them and not just say it. So it's very similar to this. Do not minimize yourself in any way. With this concept of being bait, what it is even in chess, there are rules to engagement. There are rules. And this is between this the ultimate eternal dance. If you were to say that we each have a balance of light and dark, masculine, feminine, receptive, assertive energy within us, why would the divine be different? If you look at it from that, and it's just a perspective, it's not necessarily a belief, it's a perspective, it's a mind experiment. So what if the divine did have this, and it was all this back and forth? It's not really about you as the individual. It's about, okay, well, I can observe X, Y, and Z through this light that is a part of me, and there's love there. All right, so I'm observing this. If you were to say the divine love, light, it's one. It's just love. Okay, so this love is observing how you're being mistreated, how you're being violated, how your will is being overruled, and how this is impacting other beings of love and light, even the individuals that are being used, possibly, if it's specifically an individual in your mind. That individual has light within them too. And their purpose in your life could be to be the challenge necessary for you to seek to overcome, to know that you can, to realize your own strength. However, if this situation is one where it's beyond that, where this energy, the other side, the opponent in this eternal dance of light and dark, of the divine, and, the challenge of knowing each side and whatnot. I don't want to vilify the other side, in other words, because There is a reason for this eternal contrast, and it's beyond me, but there is a reason that it is there. So if in this situation, that light within that individual, I'm not talking about the spiritual aspect of things, that's an individual. That's a person with a personality. It's not necessarily just the ego. There's an inner child in there too. They have a higher self possibly that's just been so overwhelmed by the agenda of this other side that the divine, the love and light can look at this and see not only has this soul, this light of this Jezebel in your life been so subverted, so subdued, so really like enslaved, if you will, oppressed, that it's pretty close to being snuffed out. Can you imagine how you would feel if that were your child and you're watching this happen to your children? Like, there's going to be this feeling because the divine is love. There's a reason why they talk at times about the divine wrath being worthy of being feared, because it's not coming from a space of, I want to make you hurt. I want to make you feel less than. I want to harm you. It is coming from a place of love. So it's profoundly focused, and it's incredibly unwilling to compromise. If that were your child that were being harmed, would you be willing to understand their abuser's point of view? Probably not. I wouldn't. Nope. That's my child. So there's like that focus then that, once X, Y, or Z is observed in its entirety, and everything else around the situation falls into play because the divine has a far bigger view of how everything plays out than we do. I can't even fathom how much processing brain power would need to be on board to know everything about everything, including how everything will play out and just all oh my gosh, just wow. Quantum computing just jumped into my mind. We may have parts of us, higher self, the divine within us, that can do that. But we're here, we're living this life. Our job is to live this life. Our blessing is to be present fully here in this life and to trust that part of ourself to lead us exactly where we want to go, which is our highest timeline, our greatest happiness, our most joyful experience. If that is your true north, because you're an authentic individual and you know who you are and all you really want is to be happy, you will always choose the path, even if it doesn't look like you are. You will always choose the path that leads you to that. Especially if you're here and you're listening to this, you are aware of that subtlety. And you have been following this in faith. You will know the moment that the divine acts in your favor. You will know the moment it happens. And you may be in disbelief about it for a little bit. You may need a couple affirmations of it. But know that when you're doing this, if you are one of these rare older souls that this is happening to, when the divine acts, it's not, how dare you have done this to such and such and so, and they're looking at this individual that is playing the role of the Jezebel and visiting that wrath upon that soul. They're not doing that. It's about what manipulated that soul to lose its way so completely that it sought to destroy you. And through destroying you, whether to become you or just to destroy you, the domino effect of that action causes such a upwelling of that focused love. You do not harm what is mine. You do not harm my children. And that is extended to that light that is left within that soul. Now, to some degree, that light within that soul may not even be theirs. It could have been stolen from you or from other individuals. This Jezebel aspect may literally be whatever light's in there has been taken from other innocents. So that light, regardless, the divine is coming for that light to protect it, to bring peace to it. So the way to free yourself in this moment, especially if the synchronicities have landed for you and you're understanding how it all interconnects with what you know that you don't talk to anybody about, nobody knows, it's between you and divine. If these things have clicked in for you, it leaves you in a space of knowing the divine has already intervened because you're hearing this, because it's resonating. The divine is already intervening. It may not fully play out the moment you hear this, and it may have already happened. It is unique for every single one of you, and there's a reason for that, because it protects you. It protects you so that the enemy, if you will, the opponent in this eternal chess game, is forced to understand and know themselves. In a way, in this scenario, it is the divine seeking to love that part of themselves that was separated to experience themselves. If you were to bring this to a human level, it would be seeking to love your arch nemesis because you remember them being a certain way, and you want them to know that you still love them, even though they've done things you don't necessarily agree with. Such as, maybe you had a best friend when you were a kid, but now you've grown up and you're in high school and they end up being a bully, but you always remember who they were when you were a little kid together. And that part of them belongs to that memory. And you, who you were in that moment, they know you in that way. It's similar to that. But it can't possibly be exact because it's so far beyond our everyday experience. Because it's a pretty big concept to try to bring down to an earthly example and it actually be anchored completely, understandably. So, and it's not possible. We can try, because to try to understand divine, we have to try to understand ourselves. And that's why we humanize. Wherever you are in this journey, wherever you are in this moment, you are not alone. You are never alone. And I really, really hope that you don't find yourself in that position. But should you find yourself in that position, always choose love. Always choose love of yourself. Because if you love yourself, then you can love others. So choose yourself. And that is the last stronghold, if you will, the last talon of the lack mentality that has had you gambling in this casino, giving away your focus to create what they want you to create, what it wants you to create, not what you were here to create, not what you want to create. That last stronghold is you love yourself enough to know that what isn't for you, no matter how you polish it, no matter how you try to present it as though there is no other option. It simply is not true. I don't know about you guys, but there are certain things that are never going to be acceptable, whatever they may be for you. Settling is not acceptable for me. The concept that I could want something to my bones, to know that it is meant for me, yet go, well, I guess this will do. I'll just do this because, going for that is just, it's such a leap of faith, and I just don't know. Leap, and the net will appear. You're co-creating. You put your focus towards that, and the divine will prepare the way for you. The net will be made to be there. Not that you'll need to use it, but you'll know that it's there. There was one last thing that came through very clearly, and that is, the more shadow work you do, or the more mindful you are of your thoughts, and you upvote and you downvote, the more you heal, the more you become consciously aware, and the more the divine within you becomes aware because you are aware, and thus you can create balance to what has become unbalanced. And know that when you do this, you're impacting lives outside of your own, lives you may never, ever touch. Just as at the beginning of this channeled message, it was about everyone that led to who you are now, all of your ancestors. Humans have, it keeps changing how long we've been around, but we'll just say thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years on this planet. How many generations? How many times has civilization risen and fallen? They say every 12,000 years our planet's poles shift. Well, humans have been around longer than that. They have a lot of evidence of that. Even if it wasn't just on this planet. There have been a lot of question marks that haven't been answered. So it leads you to hypothesize that humans were far older than we know we are. So all of that ancestry has led up to you in this moment. Know that you do not stand alone, and that there is so many other individuals, possibly not only on this planet, that are co-creating. They're thinking, they're feeling, they're giving their focus to things. They're having thoughts. They're choosing what to empower and not empower. They're choosing freedom from this Jezebel, this lack mentality. They're choosing to give their focus elsewhere. All of that, you are working with them, whether you know them directly or not. It's similar to, they've observed this. So they have monkeys, 2 separate islands, and I don't know the exact study or whatnot, but I'm sure that if I did some research, I could probably find it. But they had a monkey on one island figure out how to use something like in a tool, it was an advancement. It was the first time they'd seen this. And then a monkey on the other island figured it out. There was no communication. There was no modeling. But it happened simultaneously, pretty much. Like that spooky action at a distance almost kind of deal. Like, also, they've proven that trees, their roots, they communicate with one another. They have a language we don't understand, but we know that they communicate, which brings us to the TV or the movie Avatar. Was our planet like that at one point? It may still be like that, but we don't take time to tune into it, so we've lost the connection. And what's happening now is more and more of us are tuning into that. We're freeing ourselves from this concept of lack to realize that we are all the abundance that we actually need. We just need to show up for ourselves. And sometimes in scenarios, we have outside energies that are actively trying to prevent that against specific individuals. And that is where you have all of that wisdom that came before you, backing you, all of those around you and near you that are waking up with you to this, that are sharing that information with you. When you learn something, someone else somewhere also gets to learn it, though you may never know each other. Same thing as certain inventions being created practically at the same time. The patents showing up to be patented within days, hours of one another. I believe the phonograph was created at the same time by another individual than the one we know of by name nowadays. There's so many examples of this, and it's all about those that come after us. We're creating that future for them by the decisions that we make now. And when we free ourselves, we free others. So know that even if you feel alone, even if you feel like no one cares, no one knows you, you're so deep in your hermit mode, you do matter. You are connected, and you do have a lot of individuals who care about you, even if they don't know your name or who you are. You matter, and your light is powerful. It is why you are so protected. And if you're listening to this, it's time for you to know that it's time for you to know that. Maybe come out of that hermit mode a little bit. Maybe dip your toe in lukewarm water and see if it gets colder or if it stays the same. To begin to contribute if you are so deeply in that hermit mode. So, for wherever you are in this journey listening to this, in this moment, in this time, know that you are also living that moment where you have that same energy that you heard at the beginning of this reading, which was celebratory. It was celebratory. It was, you have arrived. It was, we have figured out how to get you from point A to point B, and we being your higher self. Your higher self is future you. You have created this with all of you. And all those that came before you, all those that stand with you, for all those that come after you. We're all connected, and the way has been made. Begin with that penny, and then the next time, 2 pennies, and before you know it, you'll be there. You'll be there, and you'll feel that energy bubbling up within you. And you'll be thinking, freedom. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning into today's channeled reading. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you whenever you encounter this, because you helped to co-create this. Your higher self, your ancestors, they're all connected. The divine within me honors the divine within you. Namaste.